Okay. In Germany, the doctors were able to stabilize Jenny Jelly Roll Jones with blood transfusions, and um, and as she was recovering, she saw in her mind's eye a line of black SUVs filled with G-men pulling into the parking lot outside of her hospital bed. And when the G-men got up to her hospital bed, she was gone. She'd gotten out of her handcuffs. Soon there was an outbreak of vampirism that spread around the world. For so long, the disease of vampirism had been contained to one person, and now it was spreading like wildfire. Uh, Everyone had a vampire in the family. Something had to be done, so scientists created a blood orange that produced the vegetable equivalent of blood, human blood. It was real blood, and it eliminated the need for blood donations. Dracula was mortified at what had happened. He had cursed another to walk this earth for an eternity. And now the infection was spreading, and from the shadows he searched for a way to set things right. Masha noticed that more and more humans were carrying blood oranges in their purse. Was it for self-protection, or were they all in on the game? Masha wondered. Uh, Masha, who herself had been struggling with the abstinence for a while now, she hadn't slipped yet, but she was definitely white knuckling it. Felt as if she was losing her mind. She needed to hunt. Can anyone play the game? She wondered. Now it all makes sense, thought Masha. At the moment that the vampire lost control and he goes in for the kill, the human places the orange on her neck, and the vampire plunges his fangs deep into the blood orange instead of into the human's throat. They are torturing each other, thought Masha, but willingly. They're playing a very dangerous game. This is when Masha realized that some humans like vampires. This was a whole new world to her, this underground subculture that Masha had never even suspected existed. And now that she knew about it, she was drawn to it like a moth to the flame. All of her nights off now were spent underneath the red wine pub. The danger is if the human does not place the blood orange on her neck. At this point, the vampire is powerless to stop herself when she plunges her fangs in for the kill as deep as she can. There's no coming back from it. It is the nature of the vampire. She must obey her nature and feed in an orgy of bloodlust and excess. This dance of death is madness. To play so close to the edge like this, and yet it calls to her, and thoughts of it fill her dreams. Masha could see it playing out in her mind's eye. How can a vampire trust a human not to choose suicide by vampire? How can a human trust a vampire not to brush away the blood orange and go in for the kill? Taste the real meat. The answer is you cannot. And it is this very uncertainty on both sides that is so overwhelmingly intoxicating. Masha couldn't help herself. She had to experience it. Masha's curiosity finally got the better of her, and her next night off from the V Squad, Masha spent it at the Red Wine Pub. The night was uneventful, even boring, till it was time to leave. And then she left the club and followed some noises she heard to an alley back behind the building, and leapt up onto a fire escape and observed what was going on. From this vantage point, people she hadn't seen in the club were leaving from a back entrance. There was a club beneath the club, she thought. Suddenly there was a vampire beside her on the fire escape. They fought, but Masha was able to fight her off and escaped into the night. And then the vampire who had attacked her did not pursue her. She simply watched Masha as she vanished into the darkness, and wondered what this stranger was up to. "Oh," she thought to herself, "that girl could make my jelly shake." Then the vamp just flew off. So her next day off, Masha was at the club under the red wine, showing Fang. I think I repeated this paragraph, and loving it. It was also intoxicating, all of this human and vampire mixing. It was like learning a new language and culture all at once. Wondering which was she dressed right, as she listened to how they were talking, trying to get their phrasing perfect. At first, nothing made sense, and then everything made sense. It all just clicked. And she felt at home in this new element. Suddenly, a vamp was standing beside her and said to her, must be jelly 'cause jam don't shake." Masha turned and looked at her. It was the vampire who had attacked her on the fire escape. "I'm sorry, but I'm here to find a human who's looking to play the game." "So aren't we all, my dear?" she said. "Let's do it together." Together, thought Masha interestingly. "And what is this game called?" asked Masha. "It's called the Dance of Death, but nobody really dies except on occasion. My vampire name is Nana Baluka, the creator god, but my real close friends just call me Jelly Roll." And just like that, Masha was a part of this subculture fixated on the Dance of Death and loving it. Not having all of the answers is part of the attraction. What happens when a human chooses not to save herself, or in the heat of the feeding, a vampire is unable to restrain herself? It must take incredible strength of will to resist going in for the kill when the human throat is right there. Jelly was playing with her just like she wishes to play with humans, thought Masha. This all added to the attraction and why she was so drawn to this vampire. Masha was on fire and the world was hers, as long as the blood oranges never ran out, and why would they? And then it happened. The blood oranges groves of Europe, there arose a blight that turned the blood oranges black, and the blood inside of it useless, and it spread to Canada and Australia before it was contained through mass eradication of blood orange trees across Europe, Australia, and North America. Vampire prisons were shaped like pyramids and had no. Suddenly, the demand for blood shot through the roof, and the supply of it collapsed. The UN's vampire prisons that were shaped like pyramids and had no windows to the outside world were faced with the dilemma of either releasing a horde of starving vampires out into the wild to hunt for food or to watch them all die of starvation in their cells. Both choices were made depending upon whether or not the warden of the vampire prison was a vampire himself or a human, herself or a human. Then Jelly Roll showed Masha the dungeon that was beneath the basement of the Red Wine Pub. And then beneath the dungeon was the laboratory, and in the laboratory was a deaf, blind, and non-sensory child who was hooked up to all of these machines and wires. "What is this?" Masha asked. "Alex is our clairvoyant. I fed upon her mother, not knowing that she was pregnant. Not knowing that the mother was pregnant when she was already pregnant. And as soon as I realized it, I stopped feeding upon her, but it was too late. So I did everything to save the both of them, and Alex was born with special gifts and abilities, but also with many challenges. And then we realized that she could talk to us through our computers and phones. Somehow she could gain access to them, like her mind had a wireless connection to them. We were startled at first, but when we discovered that it was her, this deaf, blind, and non-sensory child who was communicating with us directly through our phones. We couldn't really believe it, but she soon had us building devices and quantum computers. She's a clairvoyant connected to the mastermind, the sum total of all the minds in the world, all at once. And like a quantum computer, she shifts through all the data in the mastermind. The entire planet is connected to her brain, like one big hard drive. She tells us each individual's mind is like a subroutine operating within the mastermind. At least that is how she sees it. How can she communicate to computers with her mind? Asked Masha. Yes, said Jelly Roll, that's the question. The lab sits on top of a mainframe that is even deeper into the earth. She communicates through that to us, and she is connected to all of it, wireless or cable. She is bigger than her body, and she's always having us construct new gadgets and devices. Dracula was fascinated by these plants that the humans called suffering succotash because of the wailing, almost human sounds they made that provided body parts for the humans. They wailed as if they were in pain, as if they were so close to consciousness they could almost wake up, almost alive. So Dracula took them into his lab and began experimenting, switching in and out genes, and began blurring the line between the plant and animal. He was thinking ahead. If humans are wiped out by a vampire horde, leaving behind a planet of vampires, all dependent upon blood oranges, and then blood oranges go extinct, the threat from them would be gone. The problem would be solved. So he changed his strategy. These human beings are. Wait a minute,